Welcome back to another episode of Sal and Powers Go to the Movies. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hey guys.
And today we are going to be talking about Ready or Not. But just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. A bride's wedding night takes a sinister turn when her eccentric new in-laws force her to take part in a terrifying game of life or death. So let's start off by going down the cast list. We have Samara Weaving, who plays Grace. We have Adam Brody, who plays Daniel Domas. Mark O'Brien, who plays Alex Domas. We have Henry Cherney, who plays Tony Domas. We have Andy McDowell, who plays Becky Domas, who we remember her from Groundhog Day. We have Nikki Gaudagny, who plays Aunt Helen. We have Melanie Scrofano, who plays Emily. We have Christian Brun, who plays Finch Bradley. And we have Elise Levinsky, who plays Charity Domas. And last, we have John Ralston, who plays Stevens. Let's start off with my pros. I really enjoyed the beginning of the movie with all the adult humor, the language, how it was basically Grace and Daniel who were keeping the movie going with their, remarks and like foul mouth. It gave me this feeling of a Happy Death Day movie mixed with Death Becomes Her. In a way, it kind of brought me on board because it was a slapstick comedy to me, sort of. But at the end, it kind of left me down. I was on board with the story most of the way, and there was some things here and there that kind of slipped and didn't really develop the plot, but I kind of let it go. But at the end, it was too much for me. So I had to kind of reevaluate what I was watching. In a sense, it was kind of like letting me down too many times for me to overlook some of the things. But the person who really stole the show for me was Aunt Helen. Her acting was better than Grace, and I'm saying I enjoyed Grace's acting, her comedy and her timing, and even her facial expressions were, kind of amazing to me. But Aunt Helen took the show, and I mean that's expected from a veteran. So now on to the cons. Like I said before, I was on board with it until things went from serious to supernatural in a sense at the ending, especially with everybody exploding. I mean, I thought up to that point that we're going to get a serious movie about people who believe in something, and at the end it never develops. In a sense, kind of a family believing with superstition in the end, finding out that they're just horribly mad and evil people, and for them to be living centuries and centuries for, playing this thing, thinking that it holds some magical element to it, when in reality it was just them living in fear of the unknown. In a sense, I thought that was going to happen with this movie, especially with the two brothers, Daniel and Alex. I thought they were going to be mirrored by the little kids, Georgie and Gabe. In the beginning of the movie, we saw Daniel saving Alex by putting him in a closet. To me, it would have been a better twist if at the end we find out that Daniel did not save and Alex did what Georgie did before, that he walked out and actually deep down enjoyed killing. In the movie, they kind of hinted he's one of us, he's gonna come back, this is embedded in him, kind of like a sleeper agent kind of thing. But I really wanted to see that Alex tried when he was young to kill someone, or he probably killed a pet or something, and then he started developing that thirst for death, and later in life he said, I don't want to do this, and that's why he ran away in a sense. But now that he came back, like we saw in the movie, he kind of embraced this at the end and betrayed Grace. That's what I wanted to see, but it didn't really develop that way. At the end, we just got this cheesy slapstick. Like I said, that's what I was in for, but it just went too far for me. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Touly and see how he saw this movie.
So for me, I went to this film not having a lot of expectations. By that, I mean, I wasn't going to take the film too seriously, given the sort of vibe that I got from watching the trailer, which sort of downplayed some of the things that maybe I would have appreciated more from the film. Because had I not known, for example, after the wedding that they were supposed to play this game, and it turned out to be this hide and seek sort of ordeal where the family members were going to try to kill their new member of the family, then that would have been an interesting twist, on the spot to have come to realize. But having having known this and just knowing how some of these characters went out, it already gave me the impression of not treating the film too seriously, and in a way almost anything can go. So maybe because of that I ended up not liking certain aspects of the film, but overall I still ended up enjoying the film at the same time with the same mentality. I might get some heat for saying this, but kind of like Sal, where he said that he kind of had this feeling of like Happy Death Day, at the beginning of the film. I sort of saw this film kind of like the game Clue, which was a throwback Thursday film that Sal and I reviewed a while ago. I kind of perceived this film as that. And the reason I bring this up is because I believe my review of Clue wasn't as highly regarded, maybe to what Sal said. But for me, if I had to choose between Clue or Ready or Not, which film I preferred more, I would actually prefer Ready or Not. And that's because of the payoff that I get at the end. I know Sal said that he didn't like the supernatural aspect of it and how they kind of led down that road. But like I said, for me, I wasn't taking the film too seriously. So when what happened at the end happened, I was like, oh, you know what? That actually makes sense given the direction of the film and the way I was sort of feeling the mood, the vibe, the characters, the goofiness. I mean, overall, like most of the characters in the film, I didn't really care for because there were so many of them that they couldn't really give enough time to properly give them like character development, or just relying on like a quick flashback to sort of tell us who they were before. Like for example, Aunt Helen, who was part of the family, the lady who was carrying the axe around, she was actually a part of this experience. And it was the first scene that they showed in the film in which her husband got killed. And that was where Daniel hid Alex in the closet, but it was her husband who they killed. If I had to complain about something, it would actually be in terms of like how they executed the story and how they could have connected some of these characters to what had happened in their prior experiences. Like I would have made Aunt Helen, she seemed to be very pessimistic about life, and that's where her grudge is. But I wish she would have used that experience from having been a part of that game before and sort of corrupt Alex into coming back into the family, because that was one of the theme of the film too. They wanted Alex to come back and join the family because he sort of ran away until he met Grace, and Grace sort of showed him the light, and because of that he was willing to come back and probably start over in a way with the family. I wish Aunt Helen would have played into this in that they should not have portrayed her in this very menacing and with this ominous personality. Just make her another member of the family, just acting, all normal, welcoming Grace into the family. And as the story progresses, then you start finding out that she was involved in this before, that she was the victim of this game, and now she's seeking some sort of vengeance because of what Daniel did. Because Daniel was the one who blurted out where her husband was when they were playing the game when they were still kids. So I wish Aunt Helen would have played more into the story versus just being this very crazy like person who would running around with an axe and stuff. And kind of like on the opposite side, I actually liked Grace's character, how she became this overall nice person, this sane person at the beginning, and how she kind of lost it at the end given the sort of events that she went through the entire movie. I wouldn't say she like went crazy or anything, but I understood why she was laughing at the end, like just the absurdity of what she just experienced that one night. I think Grace was one of the few characters who I sort of was like rooting for, because not in the sense that I was rooting for her to win, but just see what happened to her. It was interesting seeing what would have become of her after all of this. Same thing with Daniel. He was the other character that I sort of followed and was interested in. And Alex in a degree, but at the beginning, I sort of didn't buy his story because from my perspective, if he really, really did love Grace, he would not have put her in that position. That's my personal feeling about this. But instead, he got her involved and didn't even warn her before she got involved in the game. So I sort of appreciate what they did with Alex at the end. Like he kind of embraced what they wanted him to become. But I don't know. I didn't really buy his character at the beginning though. Another downside about the film that I didn't like was the cinematography. There were several shots where they did like a first person perspective. If it's not a first person perspective, it's like one of those shaky cam sort of thing. And for me, I didn't really understand why they used that technique in the cinematography. When I see too much of that, it makes me very nauseous because, the cam is shaking way too much and I'm not one who can easily tolerate this sort of stuff. But just for reason itself, like given the situation that the character was in, I think they could have just got away with how they were shooting the film before going into those type of shots. I actually minded some points from the film just from that perspective as well. That if anything too, in terms of like the execution of the film, it's that cinematography aspect was one of those things that really stood out to me. Like when I saw it, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, it just kind of took me out of the moment of just watching the film. Yeah, and like I said, the other characters in the film, I didn't really care for. I mean, yeah, they had these goofy one-liners, but in terms of being just invested in them, like just wanted, again, like Grace or like Daniel, I wanted to root for them. I just wanted to know more about them. I didn't really want to know more about these other characters. They sort of just filled the rows and did their thing and had goofy kills or characters that didn't really matter as well, which ended up being the maids. And that was also one question that I was asking myself as well. It's like, none of these family members are dying throughout this film. It's just these maids, and the only character who was kind of being that Jason or, you know, Krueger sort of character was the butler. Like, he was the one who I was kind of like scared about for like Grace's life. So maybe if the other family members showed more determination and wanted to kill Grace, because, you know, when the butler was like outside hunting her down, like everybody else was at the mansion. They weren't out there. I mean, eventually Daniel caught up with Grace because of the car accident. I mean, Daniel did his part in trying to not reveal too much of how he didn't like this, but he did what he did to sort of convince the family that he was in on it. So again, that's why I appreciated Daniel's characters, because he was kind of stuck in the middle. I knew his motivation. He didn't want to hurt Grace, but at the same time, he was worried for his life and trying to convince the family that he was supporting them as well. If there was a character that I was rooting for to win, it was actually Daniel. Like, win, like, I hope nothing really bad happened to him. But at the same time, maybe he was trying to make up for what he did to Aunt Helen in the past. So I sort of get that what happened to him as well. But at least he didn't end up exploding at the end. Like, he died, I wouldn't say an honorable death, but at least a quote unquote normal death rather than being at the hands of the devil. And I guess, again, that's the payoff for me. Like, all these absurdity, I was like, where is this leading to? And when Dawn came and nothing happened, I was like, oh, is that it? Is this just a family who just crazy? And now what they're going to do with Grace and all the dead bodies and stuff, they're going to have to deal with this. And then suddenly they started exploding. It's like, oh, okay. And I know they were trying to censor what happened to the children. They didn't want to show what happened to them on screen. So they did this little thing where the two kids and one of the aunt, they ran outside the room and then the explosion happened. So I understand why they didn't want to show that. But for me, I was like, hey, you already went as far as having one of the kids shoot Grace in the hand. And to me, that was one of the other moments that I liked about the film. I was like, damn, all the other family members, they didn't do squadoosh, and they had this kid shoot her right in the hand. And then Grace did what she did, and she punched the kid in the face. And I didn't see that coming. And when I see stuff like that, I'm like, you know what? I could at least appreciate that. For me, I feel like you want to treat this film not too seriously. You want to see how a lead character go from a state of sanity to like insanity in a way. Like I said, I don't think she went crazy at the end, but how she just was just laughing at what was happening and how these sort of things could happen and what she got herself into. I think it was a fun watch still, and that's how I perceived the film when I walked out of the theater.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, especially in the part where Daniel, he's a character that I wanted to know more. I'm like, he's an alcoholic. Why is he drinking so much? And then, you know, at the beginning, we find out that he basically is the one who called out that Aunt Helen's husband was there. And so he kind of got him killed. And Aunt Helen, she might be, you know, harvesting some bad feelings towards him. So, I mean, stuff like that, I wanted to see more. Instead of just a flashback. I mean, the flashback was good, but just, you know, show a little more, like snippets here and there, make up better background for these characters. You don't have to go in depth into why Daniel's Daniel and why Aunt Helen is Aunt Helen. I agree with you that it seems like her role was a little more of a sinister, old, bitter lady when it should have been more of a, like, I've been here. I was in your shoes, basically, and I know how it feels. You know, still, she can feel sympathy for Grace, but at the same time be like, hey, it's either you or the family kind of thing. So she can probably play both, but at the same time is like, I really enjoyed her little character in the way it was like, she didn't show a lot of emotion in her face. She was just like, just there. She was the one who was just going like, come on, let's get this over with kind of thing. But at the same time, I wanted there to be a background to her because we did see her in her wedding night playing this game. As for the little kid, Georgie, like you mentioned, he's the one who basically shot Grace in the hand. And I was like thinking like, hey, are they going to reference this towards how Alex might be sinister down deep and that's why he ran away kind of thing to escape all this? So and stuff like that, I wanted to see more of it. I feel like it didn't give me that satisfaction at the end. You know, I thought they were going to go one way, But I think that was just me, and I was expecting for there to be something instead of just me enjoying the movie at the beginning. I was enjoying it, and I was like, wait, there's probably something deeper here. So I think that was on my behalf that I kind of expected a little more. But I do agree with you that this movie also reminded me of Clue in the fact that there was a bunch of characters. We were overwhelmed with all these characters, and it was in a mansion, basically the same decor in a sense. I guess there was killing, left and right. So with that, I'm going to ask Touly for his final grade of the movie.
So, like I said, it's a fun film. Not the best, obviously, but I didn't think it was that bad either. My biggest complaint, again, comes mostly from the execution, character development, and some of the cinematography shots, particularly with the shaky cam sort of feel, and just developing these characters in such a way that would tie back to the story in a more interesting way, and they're giving an extra level of a twist. But yeah, there wasn't a big reveal or twist part of the film that made me go, oh, okay. I can dig that. I can see why this character is so motivated into doing these sort of things. Yeah, it was pretty much Grace Daniel who sold it for me. And just the absurdity that it led up to at the end, where I was like, you know what? Because I went to the film not too seriously, I could appreciate what happened at the end with bodies exploding. So, fun watch. I would still recommend it, and I would give the film a 6.5 out of 10.
I agree with your grade. I also give it a 6.5 out of 10. It was my bad that I was expecting. I watched the movie. It was fun. Like Touly said, it was an enjoyable watch, especially for Grace and Daniel. Those are the two characters that I was rooting for. Aunt Helen also shined in this movie, even though she wasn't really adding too much emotion into it. But just her point of view, how she went through what Grace was going through. I just expected too much from this movie, but I enjoyed it most of the way, and it just left me down at the ending. But that's me expecting too much of this movie. So yeah, for me, it's a 6.5 out of 10. It's an enjoyable watch, have some laughs. I mean, it's a fun, enjoyable movie. Don't expect too much of it, as deep as meaning or significance at the end. And like Touly said, enjoy the explosions. So that does it for this review of Ready or Not. Please join us next time when we will review It Chapter 2.
For 27 years, I dreamt of you. I craved you. I missed you.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And you will find our social media links down below. And like always, keep watching movies.